Doing a little tester. I know it's not quite 6:30 yet, but just testing things out. Waiting for people to join. Okay, so see a few people. Hi Lucy. See a few people are joining. I'd love you to say hello in the comments so I know who's here. That would be lovely. Hopefully it will all work out technology wise. Last time my screen went blank, but you can see me. I'm hoping that don't happen again. Okay. Okay, so we'll just wait another minute or so before we get started. But if you just want to say hello in the comments and want to sort of give your sort of input on self-compassion, where do you think you're at with your self-compassion levels? Are we kind to ourselves? Are we hard on ourselves? Just share your experiences of that. Hi Rebecca. Okay, so this is just going to be a short talk about the importance of self-compassion and how self-compassion and mindfulness are very closely linked and very important and supportive of one another. So we'll get started. As usual, I've got my little bit of paper to keep me on track because I like to talk. So we're just going to look at sort of what self-compassion actually is, how we can start being more compassionate to ourselves, looking at the link with mindfulness and how mindfulness and self-compassion are linked, the benefits of it, and then I'm going to give you a little thing that you can go away with and do, a practice that you can do to start bringing that into your life, and then we'll finish with just a short little mindfulness meditation as well. So like I say, I'd really appreciate your input in the comments of just anything that I say that you might think of something or share something. That would be really lovely. And this video hopefully will be posted in the group if I get it right, so you can catch up on it as well. Okay, so self-compassion. What is self-compassion? So if you think about self-compassion, is learning to treat ourselves the same way that you would to a friend who is going through a hard time. Okay, and we can look at that in the way of if our friend was to ring us up and be crying on the phone because the person has broke up with their partner, for example, and they were just really, really upset, really heartbroken, wanted to talk. What would our response be there? So would we respond by saying, well, you know what, you brought it on yourself, you're boring, I'm surprised anybody wants to be with you, you'll be alone forever? Would we start to say these things to our friend? Well, of course not, because one, it isn't true, and two, we know what our friend needs in that moment, which is support and love, and that's what we would give them. So unfortunately, when it comes to us having that situation, our response is straight away to go into self-criticism, self-blame, self-judgment. We start to get really harsh, and it's not ever anything that we would say to a friend, to somebody we cared about, if they were experiencing the same thing. So ultimately, the goal is to start to recognise that we're not responding in a supportive or loving way to our own problems and our own situations. and that is causing us a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and a lot of negativity in our lives. So when our mind shifts, so when we've had an issue come up, so say for the example of the friend, the mind, if it switches, which it always does, nearly always does, to criticism and self-blame and negativity, what that then does is activates our fight flight. So critical thinking is a threat to our nervous system. And when we are in a threat, we go into our fight flight system, and we are operating from the reptilian part of the brain, so the older part of the brain that cuts off our executive functions, which means at that moment that we are criticizing ourselves and blaming ourselves and overthinking and judging, we've not actually got access to the part of the brain that we need to in order for us to be more loving and understanding and see the bigger picture, so to speak. So it can be really difficult when we are in that emotional pain of something to know what to do, to even be able to be compassionate to ourselves initially. So we do know, however, that underneath our pain, underneath our self-judgment, underneath that sort of negative voice that's going on, we do know that there's a compassionate and kind being under there, because we do it for our friends and our family all the time. But the reason we're able to do that is because we are the observer of their situation. And when we can't do it for ourselves, it's because we're having an emotional reaction and we don't have the tools sometimes to be able to deal with that emotional reaction in a compassionate way. However, if you start to practice actively learning to soothe and comfort yourself, it becomes a natural way of being. It becomes something that we can just go to. You know, we still get pain, we still get issues in life, but we start to create a pathway in the brain that becomes dominant of being kinder to ourselves. So how can we do this then? How can we start to talk to ourselves, allow our internal narrative to become as supportive as what we give to a friend when they're having a hard time? And I mean, even if we've messed up, even if things are our fault, you know, if it was your friend, you'd still give them that support that they need. So firstly, one of the main things to do that allows us to become more self-compassionate is to really understand and recognize that you are not alone in your suffering, in your pain. Pain is a human experience. It's a shared human experience. And we all go through it, you know, in different ways. But ultimately, we are all experiencing it. And what can happen often is when we start to feel bad about something, we separate and we start to isolate and believe it's only us who are experiencing this and only us who are feeling like this. And it's really not true. It is a shared human experience. So for example, you could say phrases to support this the next time you're feeling bad about something. So I did it last week when I got a bit short with my daughter because of the homeschooling. It was just doing my head in, to be honest, and I got a bit stressed and I took it out on her. Later on that day, when I was doing the practice that I'm going to show you guys, I wrote down what I felt bad about, and I did the practice. And when I actually came to it, I started to think about all the other mums who are in the same situation. You know, the ones with more children and would find it even more difficult. And I started to realise, well, am I going to be the only one who sort of, you know, reacted negatively or overreacted or whatever? And so that can start to soothe us when we can start to sort of say phrases such as, you know, it's a hard time at the moment and other mums will be going through this, it's not just you. It just sort of stops that separation, because when we have emotional pain, we really tend to isolate and separate from humanity and really internalize it as being just us who are going through that. So just that recognition that other people do that, other people suffer in the same way, other people experience the same pain. And then this is where mindfulness comes in. So mindfulness and self-compassion work together, and they support one another. So, you know, we need mindfulness to be self-compassionate, because what mindfulness does is it allows us to acknowledge what we're feeling in the moment without basically exaggerating it and going too far into stories. We're able to come to the immediate experience of, okay, there's anger, I'm feeling stressed, this is happening. And if we use mindfulness, we are training that skill that we have to not go off into painful stories and identify further with the pain and bring more pain on. So because we've done that, it's mindfulness is sort of an intervention into our automatic responses. When we start practicing mindfulness, it gives us the space and the space between us and our pain, between us and our negative experience, to bring in a conscious response, which in this case would be to be compassionate to ourselves. We can remember. Whereas if we don't use mindfulness, we're just automatically go into autopilot reactions and responses. Well, not responses, more reactions. So mindfulness gives us the ability to acknowledge what is happening in the moment. So you might say, you sort of, there's anxiety there, my stomach's in knots, there's anger, and you'll remember from your mindfulness practice to take some conscious breaths, to ground down into your feet. You do all those things, and even though the hurt's still there, or whatever your experience is still there, you've connected to the higher part of your brain by doing that. And that means you have a choice. You can make a conscious choice of what the next step is. Do I continue down this path, or do I intervene with some compassion, with some understanding? So it keeps you in your immediate experience rather than in a virtual reality, which means when we add on. So something's happened, we feel crap, and then all of a sudden you're the worst woman in the world, you've done this, your whole life's crap. This is what happens when we don't intervene with mindfulness. It just gets momentum and gets bigger and gets exaggerated. And then it's harder for us to be compassionate. So the mindfulness course that I'm doing on the 23rd of Feb, I'm hoping to run them every 6 weeks. If anybody doesn't practice mindfulness, there's a 6-week course run by OTC that can teach you the practices, teach you the breath work, the understanding of the sort of nature of the mind, how the mind works. And it will really support you with both of them, with self-compassion and with your mindfulness practice. So benefits then of starting to be kinder to ourselves. So when we're kinder to ourselves, we experience less depression, less anxiety, less stress, less shame, because, you know, we shame ourselves a lot, don't we? Blame and shame ourselves a lot. And when we start to bring this compassion, this self-compassion, we ease up on things like that. And then that brings in more happiness, more life satisfaction, self-confidence, and it really improves our physical health. And the reason for that is because beating ourselves up, criticizing ourselves is such a negative thing to do. The nervous system sees it as a threat. We get stressed, we get anxious, and it has such an impact on us. And for some reason, we're conditioned to think that we have to beat ourselves up over every mistake. You know, we're all flawed. We're all works in progress. There's no perfect human being out there. And yet it's only sort of now that we're starting to realize, like, this approach of beating ourselves up and shaming ourselves if we do something wrong, does it actually lead to any great change? No. And the reason for that is it can't, because whenever you're criticizing yourself, you're shutting off the parts of the brain that are to do with change, growth, and motivation. We literally have to be kind to ourselves. We have to be calm in our nervous system to be able to make changes for ourselves. Otherwise, we just go in a circle of self-sabotage and criticism and just pulling ourselves down back to square one. So it's really important that we change our approach if we want to see changes in our life and in our well-being, in our emotional well-being. It can be learned, no matter how hard you are on yourself. I promise you, anything that you practice gets strengthened. It takes time, it takes effort. But if you've had enough of being hard on yourself, and you are sick of sort of repeating the same thing over and over again and thinking, why can't I change this? I don't like this about myself. I don't like that I do that, but I keep doing it. Well, it's because we're trying to beat ourselves into shape and we can't. So this is a new approach. The new approach is to treat ourselves as we would our friend. We wouldn't say any of the things we say to ourselves to our friend. So a good way to start practicing, and this is a huge subject, so this is just a short little video, but I go into this more on the mindfulness course as well, and there's lots of literature out there and videos and amazing teachers that you could listen to and read, and find out more practices, or you can join me at the mindfulness course, and this will all link together then. So what I'd like you to do, if you want to do this, if you want to practice being more compassionate, is to start yourself a self-compassion journal. And what we do with this journal, it's really helping me. So I'm actively doing one again now, because it's sort of one of those things. What I love about my job is when I start revisiting a subject, I realise where I've sort of like took my foot off the ball a little bit and where I need to bring it back. So I've been actively focusing more on self-compassion recently as well. So a self-compassion journal. So what this is, at the end of your day or whenever you get a little bit of time, you look over at what you have felt bad about for that day. Okay, so anything that you felt bad about for that day, where you were judging yourself, or if you treated somebody else a bit badly, if you was a bit rude to somebody, whatever it is, reflect back on it, and then let's try and bring some compassion to it. So step one would be that, writing it down. But we want to write it down mindfully, okay? So we're going to bring mindful awareness to that moment, which means focusing on the feelings that you were experiencing, on the reality of that, not on any stories and this means this about me, none of that, just on the immediate experience. You felt stressed, you overreacted, afterwards there was guilt, the facts, not what that means about you as a mother or as a partner or all that crap that comes with our mind. We stay with the facts and the reality. So this then brings a balanced awareness to the situation, and we can handle it because we're not dramatizing it and exaggerating it. We remember to be accepting about it. It happened. It happened, and we're not judging. We're not doing this to judge. We're doing this to heal. Once you've done that, written down mindfully the sort of experience as it happened, you will then remind yourself about the shared human experience of pain, of struggle, of suffering, and try and write down a little sentence in where you can understand that others have gone through a similar thing, that there's other people out there who would have. So like I said, I did with the homeschooling, I thought about other mums that I know and thinking, surely I'm not the only mum that got impatient, that got fed up, that. So it was just a sentence that said, this is a challenging time for everybody. There's other people out there with more children than me, and it just widens your perspective, so you don't just narrow in on how much of an awful person you are. So open it up. This is a common thing. Other people will experience this same thing. And then we move to the kindness, to the self-compassion. So we try and write a sentence to ourselves, imagining as you would say it to a friend, and I think I wrote something along the lines of, you know what, you're really doing your best here. You're still trying to be a mum, run a house, work, and yet you're supporting your daughter's education. You're nicer to her more than you're not. She's happy, you apologise, you're a good person, and writing those words was so reassuring. They were so healing and soothing of that sort of guilt I felt, because I just thought, God, you want to be a perfect mum all the time, don't you? And writing those words down felt the same. if not better actually, than having them words said to me by someone close to me who could have put things into perspective. So I was able to feel better about that whole situation through recognizing mindfully what the experience was, through opening it up and realizing I'm not alone in this, and through offering myself kind words. So that is where you can start each day. You could do that. You could start it tonight. I'm sure there's always something, isn't there, that we can sort of think, I felt a bit crap about that. But it's a really good practice, and then what will happen is the more that you do it journaling, you'll start to remember and intervene at the actual time, and you'll recognize, because you're bringing it into the light, the things we're doing unconsciously control us. Once we start bringing them forward, we are back in the driver's seat, and we can start intervening and having a bit more of a conscious response to what we're doing. So do I want to stay with this beating myself up? No, I don't. It feels awful. So we have a need. We have a need. We all have needs. And if in that moment, when you're, before you come to your journal, if you want to do it in the moment, is to just, when you're feeling bad about something, just ask, what do I need right now? And it'll be something like love, reassurance, kindness. It'll be something like that, just like your friend did when they rung up crying. And we've got to try and meet that need. And if we beat ourselves up and criticize ourselves, we're not only not meeting that need, we're creating more need for that kindness. And it's painful to have unmet needs. So give it a go. Try your journaling, and as I say, reach out and read some stuff, because this can really have a massive impact on our happiness, even on our physical health, on everything, how we're treating ourselves. So a last little bit before we do our meditation is just to remember that criticism, self-criticism, equals threat to our nervous system. It puts us in the fight, flight, freeze mode, and we can't access the executive functions that motivate us to change and grow. Self-kindness, on the other hand, engages the parasympathetic system, which is the opposite to our sympathetic nervous system. And when we feel that, we release stress, we release all those happy hormones and endorphins, and it's just so good for the body, it's so good for the mind. So criticism is no good for us. It's not going to get us anywhere. It's not going to help us solve the situation. It just harms us. So what can I do instead? What approach can I take? Through the repetition of doing this is when we start to create new pathways. We start to create new habits. Repetition, we do it again and again and again, and it strengthens. And alongside your mindfulness and meditation, you can really create some new healthy pathways. And obviously, the better we're being on the inside, the better we'll be on the outside as well. So become the supportive, loving friend that you are to everyone else, to your own being. Okay, that's what self-compassion is all about. And remembering that our nervous system responds to criticism, but it also responds to kindness. And we've always got a choice, you know. We've always got that choice. It might not be what seems the easiest, but we do have one. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of info about self-compassion, why it's so important. And as I said, on the new mindfulness course starting on the 23rd of Feb, this is just intertwined with the whole course, changing that inner narrative, you know, getting to know your inner critic, empowering your thinking, you know, soothing yourself, learning how to meet your own needs and question your negative beliefs. We look at all that kind of stuff on the mindfulness course. So I will really hope to see some of you there. And if not, or as well as read books, go easy on yourself, and just look out for that self-compassion. Okay, so we're just going to do a short little meditation as promised before we finish. So if you just want to get comfortable, this is just a little bit of mindfulness, what you can do in a very short time just to bring your attention to the present moment and just reconnect. And this one's called affectionate breathing. So I just want you to find a position just where you're comfortable and you'll feel supported throughout the meditation. So it's all right sitting in the, posture, but be supported. And then when you are comfortable, just let your eyes gently close. If you don't feel comfortable closing them, just gaze down softly and take a few slow, easy breaths. So just a nice long breath in, and as you breathe out, just release any unnecessary tension. So just around the shoulders, around the jaw, the face. So slowing that breath down, breathing in, breathing out, and just relaxing around the shoulders. Just feel the weight of your body on the chair. And if you want to, you can place your hand somewhere soothing, like you might put your hand on your heart or hold your own hand, just something that's soothing. You might not place your hand on your arm or something. Because we're not only bringing awareness to this, we're bringing affectionate awareness, and part of affection also is physical touch to soothe us, and we can do that as well. So you can leave your hand where it is, or you can put it back down, and then we're going to start to notice our breathing in the body. So feel your body breathe in, and then feel the body breathe out. And just really having full attention on that whole movement of the body with the breath. Notice how your body is nourished on the in-breath and let it relax on the out-breath. See if you can let your body breathe you. There's nothing that you need to do here. Start to notice the rhythm of your breathing, flowing in and flowing out. Feel your whole body subtly moving with the breath, like the movement of the sea. Your mind will naturally wander. It's what the mind does. There's no problem with that. But when you notice, just gently return it back to the rhythm of your breathing. Allowing your whole body to be gently rocked and caressed, internally caressed by your breathing. Allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, to just be as you are. And now you can slowly and gently open the eyes. So obviously you can do little meditations like that for much longer, or even just for a minute, just to ground yourself back if you think that things are getting overwhelming. I hope you found this talk useful. I hope you can put into practice a little bit of self-compassion going forward. Remember, you deserve it. You deserve to speak to yourself kindly and lovingly, and you just deserve to have that love and feel that love each and every day. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon. Take care.